Police found the 4-year-old and his brother Raheem starving, beaten, and covered in cigarette burns, locked away in the dark basement of a house on Parker Avenue in Newark by his cousin, who was supposed to be caring for them. Also hidden there, the mummified body of their 7-year-old brother Faheem.
They starved us. They tried to put us in ovens. They threw hot boiling water on us. Anything you could think of, they did it.
I've given fear a place in my life. I've given confusion control of my mind. I've chosen to submit and bow my knee to lies from the mouth of my enemy.
Shawn Slappy had only been living at the house on Parker Street in Newark, New Jersey for just 2 weeks. He moved in quickly after meeting an exotic dancer named Sher Murphy. The relationship had moved fast, almost too fast, and before long, Shawn found himself sharing the small aging home at 188 Parker Street. But there was one rule. One rule Sher had made painfully clear: never go into the basement. Shawn didn't question it at first. Old houses had strange spaces. Maybe it's full of junk. Maybe it flooded. Whatever the reason, he left the door alone until the day everything changed. Shawn and Sher had gotten into a heated argument the morning of January 4th, 2003. Sher stormed out the front door telling Shawn she was so mad that she didn't even know when she would return home. He got ready for work and realized his boots were missing. At first he searched the living room, the bedroom, the hallway closet. Nothing. He couldn't find them. Then a thought crept into his mind. The basement? He thought that would have been a perfect place for Sher to hide his boots. Plus, he was just a tad curious why she had told him not to enter that basement. The hallway seemed darker than usual as Shawn stood in front of that basement door. He reached for the knob. He realized it was locked. That only made him more curious. After rummaging through a drawer, he found a screwdriver and returned to the door. Kneeling down, he began prying and picking at that old lock. Finally, click. The door creaked open, releasing a disgusting smell from below. Shawn slowly stepped down the narrow basement stairs, not knowing that what he was about to find would haunt him for the rest of his life. Because hidden in that basement was a secret far darker than he could ever imagine. A basement filled with nightmares. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Shed. If this is the first time you made it here, just smash that subscribe button, notification bell, because this nerdy country girl can sometimes get lost in this big YouTube world, and I often do. So help a girl out. Not only will you help a girl out, but you'll be in a place that digs deep into rabbit holes. And I enter them weekly. I dig for cases you may not hear anywhere else. Also, make sure you check out my channel so you can see a case that might have been posted that you missed, because YouTube doesn't like to share my post a lot of times. And I've had subscribers say, I haven't seen you post it in forever. And I have. I do it every week. So check me out every week on my channel. I love you guys, and I thank you for supporting my channel. Now let's discuss this case about the basement of horror. Shawn was just about to step off the last step when he noticed some kind of movement. His thought went to it possibly being an animal and wondered if he might be going to get attacked. He squinted into the shadows, waiting for his eyes to adjust to the dim light filtering down the stairwell. After his eyes grew accustomed to the dark, he saw what looked like two small human faces. He gently urged them to walk towards him. He told them everything was going to be okay and to walk upstairs with him. When the faces entered the light upstairs, he realized that they belonged to two small boys. Their bodies were filthy, their skin caked with grime and what appeared to be feces. The smell coming from them was overwhelming, like they hadn't been cleaned in a very long time. They looked terrified, confused, and painfully thin. Shawn didn't hesitate. He rushed to the phone and dialed 911, knowing whatever had happened in that basement, well, it must have been horrifying. The boys were taken by EMT to University Hospital for examination and treatment. One of the boys from the basement was able to speak to the officers. His name was Raheem Williams. He was just 7 years old. Through exhaustion and fear, Raheem told police that the woman who lived in the house, his mother's cousin, was Sher Murphy. She had locked him and his younger brother Tyrone inside that basement. That wasn't the most chilling thing he told them. Raheem said that there had once been 3 boys down there. He told officers he had a twin brother, a boy named Faheem Williams. Raheem explained that his twin had died at the hands of the people that were supposed to care for them. The next afternoon, around 3 p.m. on January 5, 2003, investigators returned to the dark basement of the house on Parker Street. What they found confirmed every nightmare the boys had described. The basement beneath the house on Parker Street wasn't meant for people to live in, especially children. Like many older homes in that area, it was dark and unfinished, a place for old furniture, storage boxes, and things people didn't want to look at very often. Overhead was dim lighting and exposed pipes laying throughout the basement. The room itself looked almost abandoned at first glance. There was a worn bed pushed against one wall, its blanket twisted and stained with grime, urine, feces, and vomit. Nearby stood a small dresser, the doors crooked as if they'd been opened and slammed shut too many times, came off the rail. The floor was dirty, the air was damp, the smell of waste lingered heavily, suggesting no one had been allowed to leave that room for a very long time. A jar was on the floor that held excrement and urine that the boys were forced to use the bathroom inside. Roughly 15 feet away from the area where the surviving children had been sleeping in that basement, officers discovered a box. Inside that box was the body of 7-year-old Faheem Williams. By the time he was found, the child's remains had been there for so long that they had begun to mummify. According to the county medical examiner's office, the decomp was so severe that there were no recognizable facial features left. No eyes, no nose, no lips, no remaining facial tissue at all. Small body was partially mummified, and the only way investigators could confirm the child's identity was through DNA testing. That afternoon, 7-year-old Faheem Williams was officially pronounced dead. Strangely, while the boys were found starving in the basement of Sherry's home, upstairs, Sherry's own children were wearing new clothes and had plenty of food in the cabinets. The family even had a well-fed, fat cat. The horror that had happened inside that basement was only beginning to unfold. When admitted into the hospital, Raheem's clothing and body was filthy. He smelled of urine and feces, and his hair was extremely matted. His skin was dry, scaly, and full of bruises. He also had old and new burn marks on his little body. He was suffering from malnutrition and was extremely hungry. He weighed only 37 pounds and was only 3.5 feet tall, height and weight below the 3rd percentile for a child his age. Physical examination disclosed multiple scars, old burns, scabbing, a distended stomach, and severe dental decay. Over the course of his 2-month hospital stay, Raheem was observed to engage in certain activities which indicated exposure to, being sick. His younger brother, Tyrone Hill, was only 4 years old. He was also weak, starving, and small for his age. He had significant dental decay and a distended stomach. He appeared to be extremely weak and needed assistance standing. He was not able to verbalize at all. However, he seemed to understand what was being said to him. Tyrone had multiple bruises over his entire body and appeared to have been burned on his buttocks, arms, legs, face, and stomach, which seemed to be another reason that it was difficult for this young boy to stand. Scarring around Tyrone's ankles, wrists, and neck were consistent with him being bound with some type of restraints. His brother also had restraint marks where it looked like he had been tied down or chained. Tyrone weighed approximately 29 pounds and measured 3 feet tall. Both scores were under the 3rd percentile for a 4-year-old. Burn scars were also present on his neck and chest wall. As a result of the burn scarring, Tyrone had to wear a compression garment suit for over his entire body for 23 to 24 hours a day for almost a year. Both boys had lice and bug bites all over their little bodies. When Raheem was asked about a bump above his eye, he stated that Sherry had punched him in the face for peeing on the floor. Raheem also stated his mother was locked up in jail. He said Sherry would only feed them occasionally, and she also put Tyrone in hot water for pooping on the floor. Raheem stated he did not know how long that he had been in the basement, only that he had been there a long time. Raheem said the last time he saw his twin brother Faheem alive, he had been taken out of that basement by a man named Joe. He believed Faheem was being burned by hot water because he had heard the little boy screaming and water running. Turns out Joe was an ex-boyfriend of Sherry's. And then Raheem didn't want to talk anymore because he said he's very hungry and he wanted to eat. Poor little boy. After 2 months in University Hospital, Raheem and Tyrone were discharged on March 7, 2003, and placed by DHS at Nicholas House, a specialized therapeutic group home for children around that area. At first, the boys were reluctant to talk about their abuse because they lacked trust in anyone. I can't blame them. The truth came slowly in fragments as the 2 surviving boys began describing the life they endured inside of this house of horrors. Each detail was more disturbing than the last. The boys told investigators they had been deprived of food for long periods of time. Hunger had become constant, something that never went away. Sometimes when they became sick from starvation, they were forced to eat their own vomit or each other's vomit. They were also forced to drink urine when they begged for water. But the abuse didn't stop there. The boys described being dragged to the sink or the bathtub where scalding hot water was used to burn them as punishment. Sometimes it was the sink, sometimes the bathtub. Sometimes even the oven was used to cause pain. Because of this, both boys showed extreme fear at the mere sight of a bathtub when staff had tried to bathe them. 7-year-old Raheem William also told investigators something even more chilling. He said this kind of abuse had happened before. According to Raheem, their own mother had burned them in similar ways, and that Sherry Murphy had learned these punishments from her. The boys also described being restrained. Their wrists and ankles were tied or shackled for long periods of time, sometimes to keep them from moving around the basement. Investigators believe restraints may even have been placed around their necks, because they had proof of that. They also were beaten and burned with cigarettes. For the 2 surviving children, the basement had not just been a place they were kept. It had become a place where cruelty was routine, where hunger, pain, and fear were part of daily life. And in the middle of that nightmare, their twin brother, Faheem, had not survived, and his decaying body had been placed near them as they lay sleeping at night. The gruesome discovery of Raheem and Tyrone in the basement and the dead body of Faheem spurred extensive coverage in newspapers and media outlets throughout New Jersey, and a police hunt for Sherry Murphy began. Police and even the FBI joined the search for her. For several days, authorities followed tips across New York and nearby areas, believing she might try to flee the state. But the search ended in a strange and almost surreal way. 4 days after the boys were found on January 9, 2003, Murphy was discovered hiding in the apartment of a man she had only met days earlier. She had approached the man on the street and told him she was new in town and had nowhere to stay. Crying and everything, he felt sorry for her, so he allowed her to sleep in his apartment. At first, he had no idea who she really was. But once he saw her face on television news reports about the abused children found inside that basement, he realized the woman staying in his home was the same person police were desperately searching for. He contacted authorities. Police arrived at the apartment and arrested Sherry. In a twist of fate, she was discovered hiding in the man's basement. How ironic. This brought an end to the manhunt that had gripped the city. An autopsy determined Faheem died from starvation and blunt force trauma to the stomach, and his death was ruled a homicide. Then suddenly, Sherry Murphy's 16-year-old son Wesley came forward to say that Faheem's death had been his fault. He stated that a wrestling move gone bad had ended Faheem's life. Wesley said he performed a wrestling move that included forcefully driving his knee into Faheem's stomach. He said that he tried to flip Faheem onto the bed, but he missed the bed and hit the floor. And then he lay unconscious after that. So he went and got his mother, Sherry. Sherry Murphy admitted finding Faheem's body on the floor September 2002 and trying to revive him. And then leaving the corpse there for several days after that, after she couldn't revive the little boy. After 3 days, she put his body in a hamper and then inside of a box before taking it to the basement where he was found. Wesley Murphy said he was eager to talk with police because he thought his mother was being unfairly accused of child abuse. I find it weird that Wesley, who was described as mentally challenged, to a newspaper, he said, if I knew more stuff to help my mom, I would say it. It sounds like he was ready to say whatever he had to say to help his mom, and including saying, I'm the one that murdered Faheem. Did he say whatever he had to say at 16 years old because he knew he wouldn't get charged that much and his mother would get life for that kind of thing, murdering someone? Wesley only ended up serving 3 years in prison for Faheem's death. The ex-boyfriend, Joe, was arrested for essaying Raheem. Although it is not said, I'm sure that Faheem was abused by this man also. Raheem had spoke about Joe burning Faheem before he died, but Joe was only charged with essay. Unfortunately, from the start, the three boys had a horrible life. Their mother, Melinda Williams, was no saint. She was also an exotic dancer who abused the children. She was an alcoholic who could not keep her boys properly clothed, celebrate their birthdays, or bother to send them to school. At the age of 3, the twins had never been to a playground. Family friends say they were even scared of pictures on a movie screen. A couple of family friends say they actually seen the children locked into the basement at times. Why didn't they turn her in then? Well, I guess it didn't matter because you're going to see she was turned in so many times they wouldn't have done anything anyway. Their mother, Melinda, was arrested in March 2001 for assault, so she left the boys to stay with her cousin Sherry. Melinda gave birth to 5 children. Her oldest child was taken from Melinda when the child turned 6, and she is adopted by another family. She was fortunate. The next child ended up moving to Sherry's sister's son's home after she was sent to jail, leaving only the 3 youngest living with Sherry. At the time of Melinda's arrest, she had also been living with Sherry. The boys had been known to DHS since they were born, basically. The twins were just 11 months old when Melinda left them with their 5-year-old brother in their apartment without food for several hours, and DHS was called. When confronted by DHS, Melinda admitted to leaving the children for 20 to 30 minutes while she visited someone in the building. DHS considered the allegations substantiated, and Melinda signed her first of many case plans agreeing to cooperate. She failed to cooperate or complete any of those case plans. On December 4th, 1996, DHS was called and reported drug trafficking in Melinda's apartment. The caller also said the boys were dirty, left unattended, and without clothing. Of course, the allegations were deemed unsubstantiated. In February 1997, DHS could not locate Melinda or her boys and requested to withhold her welfare benefits until the children were located. She was then located with the children, but by March, they had already received another call. The caller had said Melinda's apartment was filthy, garbage was all over the floor, and her oldest child was always begging for food, and all the children were always left unattended. A DHS field visit to the home convinced the caseworker that the family was stable. Somehow, she was deemed stable again. The apartment was just unclean and crowded. Everything else was perfectly fine. And of course, Melinda was made to sign another case plan, but there was no proof that she had complied with this plan. But still, the case was closed. It is especially weird knowing that her case was closed because she is still under investigation by the abuse allegation in 1996 for abusing her friend's children. This woman's children were left with Melinda after she was arrested. In 2002, Melinda would be convicted of second-degree child endangerment for abusing her friends, 7, 5, and 3-year-old child. Melinda was accused of beating the children with a belt buckle, a coat hanger, and burning them with cigarettes. On October 28, 1997, DHS received another anonymous tip that Melinda's current boyfriend, who was her youngest son, Tyrone's father, had burned Faheem with hot tea. A field visit at the home revealed that Faheem did indeed have a burn mark on his neck, but the referral was still found to be unsubstantiated. Because the unclean state of the apartment requested they sign another case plan. So much for the burn on the child's neck. On November 3rd, 1997, DHS referred Melinda to the Apostles House Family Preservation Program, a parent aid program in order for her to learn housekeeping, budgeting, and basic hygiene skills. Additionally, the division registered Melinda for weekly parenting skills classes. Transportation costs were even provided. After Melinda failed to attend 4 of the 7 parenting skills classes, she was notified that completion of the course was mandatory and that a hold on her welfare check would be requested if she did not comply. There is nothing in the record to indicate that she ever completed the course, nor any benefits were withheld. During a routine visit to Melinda's home on May 27, 1998, a DHS caseworker observed that their oldest son had a laceration on the palm of his hand. Melinda and her oldest son was transported to the ER, where the wound was cleaned and treated, but it could not be sutured because it was just too old. Medical neglect was substantiated. Melinda once again signed a care plan, agreeing to cooperate with DHS. But guess what? She did not. Imagine that. On June 1st, 1998, she was referred for a psychological evaluation, a drug screening, and a prenatal care check, as she was just 4 months pregnant with Tyrone at the time. But by June 16, 1998, DH again lost contact with her because she moved without notification. During this time, she gave birth to Tyrone on August 20th, 1998. Of course, they again put a hold on her welfare benefits. On October 1998, she contacted DHS, who offered her more parent classes. Melinda informed DHS that she wanted no help, and she did not talk to DHS again until November 1988. On April 27, 1999, a referral was made from the oldest son's school, reporting he had an inch-long cut on his thumb and told the nurse that his mother cut him with a knife while she was trying to attack her boyfriend. The child also said that there was a gun under his bed at home. A worker visited the family that afternoon and questioned both Melinda and her son. Melinda stated that the cut was from a fall while the child was playing outside, and her son agreed. Of course, your mother's sitting right there. Of course, you're going to agree to whatever your mother says. The mother that abuses and beats you, I'm not going to disagree with her. You know your life depends on agreeing with her. Melinda even took the worker into the bedroom and lifted the mattress, and no gun was found. The allegations were unsubstantiated, but Melinda was requested to sign another, guess what, care plan. Since the school also reported that her oldest son was in the second grade but classified as a non-reader, his second grade he couldn't read. By July 1999, Melinda had abandoned all her children. She left them with no food or clothing at the home of Tyrone's paternal grandmother. The grandmother called DHS after 3 weeks and reported the incident because she could no longer afford to provide for all the children, since she had no help from Tyrone's biograndfather. The grandmother did continue to care for Tyrone, but the other 3 children were placed in the care of their maternal aunt by DHS. By October 2000, all the children were placed back in the home with their mother. 3 months later, in January 2001, DHS was notified that the children were living in an apartment with a broken window and no source of heat. It was wintertime. Guess what? They then found the allegations unsubstantiated. I'm sick of that word. It's used in every case. This would be the last time Faheem would be seen alive by DHS. On March 2001, Melinda was arrested, and that is how the boys ended up in Sherry's basement. Incredibly, on December 11, 2001, the decision was made by the DHS to close the case on Melinda and her children, even though there had been no physical contact with the children since January of 2001. And despite 7 or 8 attempts to visit Sherry Murphy's home and Melinda's continued refusal to cooperate with DHS, an in-home safety assessment conducted by a caseworker concluded that the children are unlikely to be in danger of immediate or serious harm at this time in this home. This conclusion was reached without the caseworker ever seeing the children. The supervisor signed off on those papers, and the case was formally closed on February 7, 2002. In June 2002, after Melinda was released from jail, she still did not go get her boys from Sherry's home. She moved to New York to start her life fresh and free from children. And then one day she learned that her 2 boys had been found inside of a basement. She decided it was then time to make an appearance back into their lives. Before Melinda made it to the hospital, though, she had a wreck and she was seriously injured. After being released from the hospital, Melinda did serve some time for child endangerment. Joseph Reese served 5 years in prison for the essay of Raheem. Sherry Murphy was sentenced in 2005 to 25 years in prison for her treatment of the surviving children. A charge of attempted murder was dropped. Tyrone Hill's father, who had never been in Tyrone's life, came forward to file for custody of his son and Raheem. He also filed a lawsuit seeking damages connected to the case. The lawsuits argue that government agencies should have done more to protect the children earlier. Maybe he should have done more too. Although Tyrone's biograndfather was offered visitations, he failed to attend on a regular basis. He also had past drug charges and was mentally challenged. Also, he did have those past abuse allegations, and even when the grandmother had Tyrone, he refused to help her in any way. It was thought that Tyrone's father made an appearance for some moolah. Melinda was no better. She also tried to get her children back after she learned that a lawsuit was involved. In 2006, Raheem and Tyrone were granted a $7.5 million settlement from the state amid charges of failures by DYFS. Melinda fought to receive $1 million of that settlement. Melinda said she should get Faheem's share of the settlement because DYFS was negligent in protecting the children while they were with Murphy. Thankfully, she lost, and the judge terminated her parental rights of the children. The judge stated how cruel, ironic it would be to hold that she retained the right to inherit $1 million from the child she had burnt, abused, neglected, and abandoned. Wesley Murphy, who claimed to have murdered Faheem, died in his car from multiple gunshot wounds in 2023. Like I said, he served 3 years in prison. Then he was in some kind of accident that he was shot, and that is still being investigated. In 2024, Tyrone Hill came forward about his traumatic life and future dreams. He had changed his name to Andrew Edwards after being adopted by a family.
While his case did prompt a massive court-ordered overhaul to fix the system, Edwards himself got shunted from one foster home to another.
They said that I was too much of a problem child at the time. They said I was too much to deal with, and they didn't want to deal with me.
The courts declared his mother an unfit parent for neglecting and abandoning the boys. When Edwards finally got adopted by a foster parent, the teen tattooed his new initials, AE, on himself. The state settled his lawsuit with a $7.5 million trust fund. He figured he had a new identity, a new life. But when he turned 18, Edwards' adoptive parents moved away. No explanation, no contact, he says.
He still picks up for other people, but he doesn't pick up my number.
That has to hurt.
It's funny. It does, but at the same time, I'm used to this stuff because of what I've been through as a kid. I feel like there's not too much you can do to hurt me anymore. You know, I done been through almost everything. I've done been through it all.
He's now 26 years old, living alone in a gated community in Monmouth County with a German Shepherd and a fiercely protective Doberman named Becky. He'd like to open a refuge for abused dogs, and he's still tight with his surviving brother, Faheem's twin, Raheem.
There's no brother connection like the brother connection we have because we both been through the same thing, and we don't want to lose each other. We're all we have. I feel like I came a very long way. I honestly feel like I wasn't supposed to be here. I feel like I was supposed to be dead. And I feel like God has me in this world for a reason. I feel like there's a certain path that I am destined for. Out of all of us, Faheem didn't survive. Sometimes I wonder what life would be with my brother. But I feel like if my brother didn't take the ultimate sacrifice, I wouldn't live the life that I live today.
From the time these kids were abused inside that basement, it was a quick news flash. Faheem's brothers were left to make a way for themselves. And it appears that it was hard for them to make a way for themselves. It was hard for them to get their story out into the media. And that's why I wanted to help. I wanted to help Tyrone Hill, whichever one, Andrew, as he wants to be called, get his story out there, because I feel like he tried. He tried to get his story out there in 2024, and it kind of failed because no one would share his story. And I think that's sad. It's like he was forgotten about again. A lot of y'all know that as essayed when I was 6-7 years old by a neighbor, and I do talk about these cases a lot. These kind of cases a lot because I believe it needs to be out in the open. I believe people need to tell their stories of what happened to them because other people that's been through this need to hear your story, that they're not alone. So Faheem, may you rest in peace. I love you guys, and I'm not going to end on a sad note. I promise. I'm going to add something at the end that maybe will help you out. Like maybe put my chickens up for the night, my chickens and ducks. Maybe it'll help you out. Not much, but I always hate leaving y'all sad. Because I love y'all and I appreciate that you support my channel. Come on. I don't know why they're over there. I guess the grass is greener on the other side, as they say. All right, come on. Go on in. Go on in. I'm coming. Come on. So the ducks get the water. Let me pet you. Come here, I'll pet you. Ducks get their water dirty. You have to clean it every day. Sucks. I just give them odds and ends from the fridge. There it goes. Well, come on. Is that good food? Come on, guys. Come on, chick, chick, chick. Miss Big Head, she's not coming. That's Goldie, Blondie, my twins. She's Mitsubishi and Miss Big Head, who's not obeying. And something else that's on my butt. Oh, it's Simon. So you down there trying to eat their food? Here comes Miss Big Head. Go on in there, Miss Big Head. Are you it? Besides the ducks. Let's see, that's everybody. All right, now let's get the ducks. Run them duckies in there. They don't like to come. They usually argue when I try to get them. Now I have to change all their water because they messed up all their water, of course. Get in there, y'all know. Usually they argue with me. They're not going to argue today, I guess. They might be tired, ready to go to bed tonight. Y'all hungry? Go for it. Open this door with and then I got to go get y'all's water. Say good night, Max. Tell everybody goodbye. Simon, tell everybody bye. Say bye. See you next time, Murder She Shit. Bye.
I've given fear a place in my life. I've given confusion control of my mind. I've chosen to submit and bow my knee to lies from the mouth of my enemy. Oh, I can feel my mind losing control. Somehow